So, the biggest thing that has kind of screwed up people's association or understanding of themselves and their own development, and things that actually limit people's development to doing the things that they actually want to do, the biggest thing that has stopped that, or at least restricted it for people today, is our own inner standing, not understanding, our own inner standing of emotion, and how we categorize certain things as negative emotion and positive emotion. Because there seems to be this, and this is more, you have in therapy, there's these certain techniques that people use to realign the way they understand themselves and their emotions. So like, all right, we're going to have these certain thought patterns that we're going to put in place for ourselves so that we can function better, or that we can understand our emotions better. But really, we've got to understand our emotions better and actually figure out what's going on there. Because, for example, like, this is very common. We have someone who's got anxiety, we've got someone who's got stress, we've got someone who's got some form of depression, which is really a repression of their true desires and things like this. Someone who's got anxiety, any of that type of stuff, they will say, well, what they will feel are these restrictions in the bodies, these tensions. It could be tensions in different chakra locations of the body, so in the throat, for example, because they're afraid to speak out against maybe authority, or they're afraid to speak their own truth from into the world from their soul, in a way. Or it could be, in the stomach, where there's tensions and knots in the stomach. Or it could be something else, where there's some sort of feelings of butterflies, or some sort of sicky feeling. And this really usually associates itself to when people do things that they haven't done before, or that they're, it's like, oh, I've got anxiety about doing this thing because you have this whole situation of, oh, I've got social anxiety because honestly you don't socialize enough, hence why you got the anxiety. But then it's like the initial response to these feelings is, I'm not going to do anything about it, or I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to go back to the safety bubble of my previous lonesome life or whatever, and I'm going to stay there, and I'm not going to do anything about these feelings that are coming up because I see them as negative. But really, and this is what we should really try and understand, because this will probably help a lot of people if we actually just truly try and understand why these feelings are coming up, is that we have to ask the question, where are they coming from? Why are these feelings appearing? Usually appearing because, well, it has to be Mother Nature. Mother Nature's saying something to us, right? So it's like, okay, the human condition, our own human condition, and our association and our understanding and our connection and our inner standing to Mother Nature is saying something about us, saying that we need to improve ourselves, saying that we need to work on something. And the way you could say that the instincts, or that great Mother Gaia, or whatever you want to call it, calls us forward to do these things is by giving us anxiety with these certain things, because that's the way of saying, like, you haven't worked on that thing enough with yourself. You haven't improved yourself around this certain specific thing that you've got anxiety about, or that you've got stress about, or that you've got tension in your body about. So what happens is the instincts within us, the muse, the thing that tries to guide us forward to exist in the best holistic way, in the most individuated way possible, tells us in our own body that we need to fix this certain thing that's within us. Therefore, you get given the anxiety, and you get given the tension in the body. And therefore, when you start to realize this and see this as being the case, you can then start seeing life as a game in a way. Not obviously as a kind of cynical game in which you play with people and play with people's minds, but more like it's a game in the sense that you're actually trying to upgrade yourself and go on new levels and go on new things that you need to do to increase your agility and your ability to do all these different things. That's how life is. But instead, of course, you got people who play video games like, oh no, the video games are for that. That's what you do with video games. No, your actual life is that, where you increase your ability. And because it's even genetically expressed that your genes, through epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, that you activate your ancestral genetics the more you do things you haven't done before by stepping into unknown situations and doing all these things. That's why I was talking about, Joseph Campbell's idea of the monomyth, because that is the most therapeutic, cathartic activity you can do to, like, make your life better, by constantly going on these forms of adventurous journeys, if you will, Because those journeys of adventure, which could be anything, it could be a small thing of doing that one thing in that day which you haven't done before, for example, which confronts an unknown situation. But by doing all these, and then of course there's definitely all these different forms of what that could be, all these different unknown activities where you're confronting things you haven't done before, slaying the dragon or whatever, and that itself activates these things within you. But you also have to realize that it's Mother Nature inside you actually calls you forth to do these things by saying, oh look, this is not good enough in you, therefore you need to do it. It's not saying, oh, you're not good enough, therefore I'm just going to try and destroy you with the heaps of distress or the emotional distress of repression and all of this, because really that's exactly what it is, because when you don't actually activate yourself towards those things that give you anxiety, which is the flip side coin of excitement, fundamentally, when you don't do that, you then get depressed, because when you don't actually do those things, the reason why you're not doing those things is because you are repressing what your soul is telling you to do. You're actually repressing the things that Mother Nature is kind of telling you what to do. Because it's oh, if I've got anxiety towards this thing, I need to actually do it. Because that's how you're going to improve. That's how you're going to upgrade yourself in this life in terms of what you can do with your abilities. And it's actually going to make you feel more accomplished by being able to do these different things that you haven't done before. That's why we get that's how we get rid of all these things like depression, all these forms of depression, because depression is repression of the soul. If you repress things, if you don't listen to what the body is telling you to do, if you don't listen to what stress is telling you to do, anxiety is telling you what to do, and you just continue doing the thing to avoid the anxiety, then you're going to get depression, and then which is repression of what Mother Nature or what the soul is telling you to do. And that's where you get all of these issues. And that's from a more holistic kind of inner standing place where it's okay, we need to listen to the soul. What does the soul desire? What does it crave for? And from that point, we can then actually figure out what we need to do in our lives to upgrade ourselves and get onto the next level.